Hi, I'm Jim Ojala, writer, director, feature creator of the eco-horror film Strange Nature, and you are watching Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Pierce Berolzheimer, writer and director of Crabs, which is an amazing film, and not just because you're here. I think this is great.
Thank you so much.
We were talking beforehand about the striping thing, but what I liked about it is the movie evolves as you watch it. It starts as one kind of movie, kind of becomes Gremlins-esque, and then it becomes a kaiju film all in one movie.
Yeah. I didn't know how many movies I was going to ever get to make, and so I figured I'd just make all of them sort of in one film. Let's throw it all at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, no, and it really works. It's very fun. And like, I'm all for something with like a deep theme or social commentary, but sometimes I like to watch something that's just very fun, and this is definitely it.
Yeah, we really tried to avoid any social commentary. We didn't want the movie to be placed in any one time period or reference any real locations or characters or anything. It was the intention from the very beginning was just to make something fun. And
this is your first feature?
Yep.
That's pretty wild. So how does that come about? I saw you produced a couple things, and then, how does that go to? Because a lot of people I know, they'll make a few shorts, and then they'll make a feature. How did it come about? Like, I'm making an actual feature.
Yeah, I did a bunch of shorts in college that will never see the light of day because they're terrible. But the whole intention behind that was sort of to learn how to do things that I didn't know how to do. So I did like a bunch of gore effects in one of them and stop motion. I used to do a lot of stop motion animation as a kid. And then I got a job off of Craigslist as a sort of assistant to somebody that then the editor on that project hired me as sort of a PA. But the first movie I ever worked on, Sunbelt Express, we didn't have a huge budget. And so I started as I'd never worked on a film set. So they're like, if you want to come to set, we don't really have any money for you. I'm like, that's fine. I just want to be in every meeting. Like, I don't have to get paid. I can take some time off. I just want to be like a fly on the wall for everything, so I can learn how to make a movie. And I got to do that. And after about the first week, they're like, well, you're basically producing, so we'll give you a producer credit. And then they hired me off of that one onto Diverge, which is a low budget sci-fi movie. And I was sort of in charge of one. We shot it in 3 or 4 different locations. And so I handled one of the main locations. And then after that, the producers are like, hey, we know you want to direct. Do you have anything you want to direct? And at the time, I was trying to figure out kind of what movie would get my foot in the door at the film industry that would be cheap to make. And I had this whole other film called Willa, which is the name of our film company is Willa Film LLC, but only because we started going to production in this other movie called Willa and then shifted gears, but didn't want to have to redo the paperwork for the company.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was but it was like a possession movie. And I realized that possession movies were really popular at the time. And it was like during the Insidious kind of age. And one of the producers gave me the best advice I've ever gotten, which was like, if you're not completely in love with your movie idea, don't make it. Like, if you're making it to make something else later, like, don't do that, because you might be stuck with it for 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, well, that's kind of what I'm doing. What I really want to make is this crazy Crabs movie that I wrote when I was 19. And so I gave them the script, and they're like, we have no idea how to do this. We don't know how to do any of the special effects. But if you can sort of figure that part out, we'll help you with the rest. And so a bunch of just like serendipitous things lined up that we got all that figured out, and now we're here.
I love it. So did you didn't go to film school then, or did you go to film school?
No, I went to Davidson College in North Carolina, and I'm technically an English major, but only because the head of the English department he teaches the one film class that they had. And he's like, well, I can do independent studies with you in film and count them as English credits, because I didn't really want to be taking any other classes besides film classes. Yeah. But I also knew that if I went to traditional film school, I've never been I never loved school. And so I was really worried that if I went to traditional film school and I was doing film all day, every day, and had to do it sort of structured like that,
Right. You kind of lose the love of it, maybe.
I might lose the love of it, because there's so many things that I loved growing up that, like, as soon as I had to do them in school, I'm like, well, I used to love science, and then like I love biology, and then I had to do biology in 10th grade and really didn't like it. And so it's like, I wanted to make sure I didn't lose my love of film, which is the whole reason I didn't go to film school.
Yeah. One of the reasons I ask, because I have a lot of friends, independent film, and a lot of them, I liked what you said about you were on the film set, and that's kind of like how you learn to make a movie.
Yeah.
Because I have friends who, for Trauma, for example, some people hate Trauma who've worked with it, and some people love it. And the people who love it have told me they knew going in they wouldn't make money or anything, but they used it as their film school.
Yep. Yeah, Trauma. We have a crazy relationship with Trauma. The movie does. So I had no idea how to do any of the special effects or anything. And I was living in New York City at the time, and I saw that Big Ass Spider was screening at one of the local theaters. It was having like its midnight premiere. And so I dragged one of my buddies to go see Big Ass Spider, and the only other people in the theater were Lloyd Kaufman and his wife, because Lloyd Kaufman produced the movie. And so he was literally the four of us. So afterwards I started talking to Lloyd, and he's like, I'm like, can I have 10 minutes of your time just to ask some questions? I'm trying to get this movie off the ground. I'm trying to figure out the special effects. And he goes, well, why don't you come down to Trauma Studios? I'll give you an entire day. He gave me a full day of his time. He read my script. He put me in touch with Jim Ojala, who used to do, like, the guy who did the creatures on crabs, did the creatures on Poultrygeist.
Mm-hmm.
And so without Lloyd, the movie wouldn't exist. I mean, it's like the only reason this got off the ground was because of Lloyd Kaufman.
Yeah, he's from my experience with him, very nice guy, and he's always there, very helpful. I've had him on the show, and he's helped me with stuff. He's in my feature film that is at festivals right now. But he's
that's
just
awesome.
What's that? Sorry.
What's your film?
The Once and Future Smash and End Zone 2. Two movies that are playing together. Real awesome. Quick, it had their world premiere at Fright Fest in London, US premiere in Screamfest, and it's been playing. It just started the film festival run. Which
congratulations, that's awesome. Yeah, we were at Fright Fest last year. Did you get to go to Fright Fest?
Yeah, it was. I was there one other time as press, which was cool. But being there with my own movie was a really awesome experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, did you get to go to Fright Fest?
I did. And there's a guy named Dave that dresses up every year. Did you see him dressing up in front of the theaters?
I don't believe so, actually. If I did, I think I might have seen the first time I was there.
Okay.
Does he have a tattoo down his arm that says Fright Fest? So someone does.
Maybe.
So
Anyway, he dressed up as a crab, and I had no idea.
Oh, really?
I just arrived on the day that the screening was, and there's a guy dressed up as a crab, like, promoting the movie. I had no idea. He was.
I love that. That's awesome.
Great guy, and Fright Fest is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about the festival run, because I think that's very exciting. But also, I want to mention, because you mentioned Jim Ojala, I've had on the show. He's a really cool guy, and
nice.
And the effects are awesome. But you said you had a background, doing stop motion. Was there ever a time you thought maybe you'd do stop motion for the movie?
Originally, I wanted to do. I always toyed with the ending going two different ways. I love stop motion animation. It's incredibly hard and complicated to do properly. So I knew that would have been a really challenging way to do the final fight scene. I looked into trying to do it that way, but it just immediately was like, nope, this is going to cost way too much money to do it right.
Yeah.
And then I thought about doing so the plan was to have a really authentic sort of 1950s Godzilla style fight at the end, where we build a miniature version of the town and have them destroy the town on the set, and we would actually have like a little
people in costumes and
And so we built the costumes with that plan in mind, and then researched how much it would cost to do the miniatures, and the miniature town was just immediately out of our budget. So that's why we used the drone footage instead, because that was a lot cheaper. But yeah, I would have loved to do stop motion. I'd still love to do something with stop motion in the future. I just I know to do it well is very hard.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of stop motion anytime it does pop up in modern movies, which is rare, but I'm always very excited. And so what was some of the stop motion stuff that got you into it? I assume like Ray Harryhausen.
Oh yeah, but my first stop motion love, the first thing that I ever saw that made me want to do movies at all was South Park.
Oh,
And
awesome.
I thought that was like, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
And so I would do like, I tried to imitate it and cut out little cardboard puppets. And then I used Windows Movie Maker and basically just had it like, my computer was in this little desk area, and I would do the animation up against the wall with a little webcam, and then I'd like move it and take a photo and move it and take a photo. And so I tried doing clay once, and it was significantly harder. So I mostly stuck with the paper cutouts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up doing, again, I didn't like school. So like I would talk to my teachers. There's a couple teachers I actually got that would let me do stop motion animations instead of papers. And so I'd get to do, I made Great Expectations. Like I did an adaptation of Great Expectations using stop motion animation.
I love that, because I think some teachers wouldn't let people do that, but it clearly helped you because you actually ended up going on to make a movie. Yeah,
and there was a significant number of teachers that let me do it, which was especially in a public school. Which is
it's funny. You also mentioned South Park, because I actually thought some of the lines in the movie reminded me of like South Park humor. And I even wrote that in my notes, which I thought was pretty cool. Because I also do think that the visuals are so cool that I think some of the comedy might get overlooked, because I found it very funny, just some of the silly lines.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, the South Park is just that tone, the fun tone of South Park, especially early South Park, is it can't be beat. It's just my favorite.
Yeah. So when it first started, honestly, I was like, oh, this is probably like a sci-fi kind of like a sci-fi movie. Like that's its own subgenre, really, I think, sci-fi movies. And nothing against those, but I like that it's a lot more. It's a lot of different film styles into one.
Yeah, there's a version of this movie that was mostly like horny college kids getting killed, right? Like there's that version of it that could have been, but I really wanted to do something that was like my first horror movie, like something that I know there's blood in it and there's drugs and there's sex, but theoretically like a 15-year-old could watch it, right? Like there's nothing mean in it. There's nothing, it's supposed to be a fun movie first and foremost before it's anything else, right? So I wanted there to be like some sweet tones to it that you don't necessarily get in a lot of the sci-fi movies. Like the romances in the sci-fi movies are typically like nothing against them, but you don't necessarily get it's just not sweet, right? Like there's not a lot of innocence in it. And I thought, because it's sort of like my first horror movie, I wanted to add some innocence to the relationships and stuff.
Yeah. So real quick about Jim Ojala. So he was set up through Trauma, through Lloyd.
Yeah. Yep.
And did you like right away, like, did you guys mesh like how you were going to make this? Did he really get like what you were going for?
Oh, immediately. I mean, Jim, this wouldn't exist obviously without Jim. I mean, Jim is such a master at what he does. And normally when he gets to work on movies, he typically does there's like one effect that they perfect. And it's just like, there's one part of the movie because there's, and they need one sort of special effect or one thing in the movie. But what he told me with this one is like, it was his dream project because there's so much. There's the little crabs that we had on remote controls. There's puppets, there's guys in suits, there's, blood and bodies getting torn apart and crabs that you can blow up and smash. And there's blue blood everywhere. And like, he got to do everything in the film, like just everything that you could think of. He sort of had free reign too. So a lot of the kills would be collaborative, like, okay, Jim, here's what my thought is, but I don't know what we're capable of because I've never worked with special effects before. I don't know what we can do in our budget. And what do you think is going to look the best? Right. And so a lot of the, the effects and how it came about was Jim's expertise, and he just brought it all together.
And what about shoehorn crabs? Is this just I've never seen them in movies, which is cool because I've seen sharks and lots of different things. I've never seen a shoehorn crab movie. Is that just like something you've never seen before? Do you have a connection to shoehorn crabs?
Oh yeah, I grew up going down to Georgia for Thanksgiving, and the horseshoe crab shells are just all over the beach. They're just everywhere, and I always thought they were terrifying. Like they've got the crazy legs underneath.
They do have they seem like from another era, like prehistoric. Yeah.
And they got these like dead eyes on the top. There's just these like hard shell eyes. And anyway, I thought they were terrifying. And I was just surprised that nobody had ever made a movie about them. Like, there's movies about every other terrifying animal on Earth. And I don't know. I mean, there's so many like wild boar movies, but there's never been a horseshoe crab movie. I'm like, all right, well, that's untapped genre, I guess.
Yeah. You started your own horseshoes, which is cool.
Yeah.
Will we ever see any merchandise like horseshoe like toys?
I would love to. I mean, we just released the movie like 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
there should mention by Raven's Banner. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. So in Canada, we're being released by Raven Banner. And then in the US, I'm self-distributing it. So we've got a Blu-ray on Amazon and it's on all the platforms. But I would love to do toys. I have this image of like a collector's set of each of the different size toys for each of the characters. Yeah. And then I'd love to do like a Radu figurine with the samurai sword and like a removable crab vest and all the paint and stuff. But yeah, if it picks up and it does really well and there's a demand for merchandise, I have somebody who I went to high school with that can design the toys. I mean, I'd love to. I have T-shirts with quotes from the movie all planned out. Like, I'd love to do stuff. It just depends on, if it hits, we'll definitely do merchandise.
Yeah. Along those lines, so I've seen various posters of the movie. Do you have a particular favorite? Because some are more comedic, I think, and some are more vague of what kind of movie it is.
I do. There's a bunch of different posters. Let me grab my favorite one is the one for the US release.
That's my personal favorite too. I think it really it gives across what the movie is. Yeah.
I think so too. I think this one, it's the most like the tone of the film. Like the colors match the tone of the film. A lot of the like pink and blue are our colors in the whole movie. So it really
the logo's great on that too. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And we worked really hard to get the actual logo right. And then this guy, Justin, who I found on Instagram, did the artwork he actually did he did the whole packaging. The whole packaging for the US Blu-ray was all Justin at 1126 Studios. He does like these horror movie posters for board games. So he has like Monopoly, the Chutes and Ladders one. Anyway, they're great. And I found him on Instagram and he ended up doing that post.
He might be, did he do like, I remember seeing a Hungry Hippos, like,
yep.
That's him. Okay. Awesome.
That's the one that sold me. I saw the Hungry Hippos one. I'm like, okay, he's got to do the poster.
Yeah. For years on the show, because I started the show 2006, I always said, like, that would be a great horror movie, is Hungry Hippos. So then when he made the poster, it's like, oh my God, this rules. Yeah.
Hippos would be a really good. I have not seen a good horror hippo movie. That would be
and if you research them, they are very. I think they're one of the most dangerous animals. Them and moose.
Yeah. Yep.
And so if you ever see a hippo out there, you stay away. So so you mentioned Radu. That character is amazing. I'm a big fan. And was that a hard character to find the right person to play?
Yes, probably the hardest. Him and Bryce's character Hunter were those two were the hardest. But for Radu, I knew I didn't want Radu to be from anywhere. Like, Radu wouldn't work if he was from a country. Like, the character, it would come across as diminishing and racist and like a stereotype, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to play with the stereotypes of 80s movies without any of sort of the baggage of the stereotypes of 80s movies, right? Like there's the John Hughes love story in the movie. I wanted to have like it be a greatest hits of all the 80s and then remove all the stuff that doesn't work in 2022, right? So Radu originally was supposed to be about 14. He was supposed to be a little kid. Mm-hmm. And we started trying to cast people, and everyone that came in was doing very specific accents, and that didn't work. And I wrote the dialogue trying to be like nobody ever speaks that way in any accent, that any person that doesn't speak English that has learned English as a second language does not speak like Radu, right? Like, that's just nothing you've ever heard. Uh-huh. And so I wrote the dialogue specifically to try to not have him be from anywhere. Anyway, a lot of the people that came in to do to audition came from their performance came from somewhere, and it just didn't work. And so anyway, my casting director, we were at sort of an impasse. We're like, well, what do we do here? Because this we can't find somebody right for this. We got to rewrite it. And the casting director was like, hey, I have a Hail Mary for you. He's not at all what like just the description of the character is, because he's not 14, but he's great. Check out his audition. And he sent us the audition. We're like, oh my God. All right, we're going to rewrite the movie to make it make sense for Chase to play Radu, because Chase is just so amazing. He is the level of talent that he has is off the charts, because when we started filming, the first scene with Radu is my dialogue, and it was our first day of filming. And to me, it's the weakest scene with Radu, because he's doing my dialogue, which is my dialogue for Radu is the worst part of Radu, because right after that, Chase, I just heard him like improving as Radu offset. And I had this realization that, oh my God, I mean, he is just so much funnier riffing than anything I could ever wrote. And so I talked to Chase. I'm like, hey, can we, you know the script, right? You've read it. You know what needs to be done in every scene, right? Can you riff? Like, can we ad lib a bunch of this? And that's what he does. He's a professional like ad lib comedian. And so the vast majority of everything after that is just Chase. It's just Chase being hilarious. And we would give him like prompts, and he would go, and he would just go, and then we'd try something else, and we'd just go. And so on the Blu-ray, there's like twice as much Radu in bloopers, and he does a whole commentary throughout the whole movie as Radu. It's all improv.
That's amazing. Yeah. I would love to listen to that. Yeah.
I want to do a movie that's just entirely improv with Chase.
Yeah. I love the character, but I actually like him even more now. So I also like that, like you said, I didn't know this watching it, obviously that there's no place he's from, but I did like when I was watching it that they never referenced. I don't think they even referenced that he's like a foreign exchange student or anything. He's just this guy who's talking this other like dialect, and it just makes it hilarious to me.
Yeah, I made up fake words so that like his currency that he uses in his home country is Danukin, which is as nonsense a word as Amorium clustergram is, right? Like I tried really hard to make sure that Radu could not be placed.
Yeah. It totally works. And then not to give away the credits, but an amazing theme song at the end.
And that, again, was entirely him. I was just like, Chase, I would love for you to sing the final song over the credits. I had two guardrails. No pop culture references, because I didn't want, again, the time period. I didn't want to be able to place the movie in any time period. And nothing, don't say anything that's going to get us canceled. And other than that, free reign, say whatever you want. And that was the first draft. Like he played the guitar, he sang the song, he wrote the lyrics, sent me that, and I'm like, oh my God, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great. My when I was listening to that though, my only concern was I know on a lot of streaming sites today, they just go through the credits so quick. I was like, that would be it's disservice to any movie, but a huge disservice here.
I know. I'm hoping that because there's dialogue over it, maybe it won't count as credits. Right. I don't know.
I've seen a couple movies recently where I think they purposely put stuff in there so they're not sped over. I hate that. Even at the theater, I go to the theater all the time, and as soon as the movie's over, a lot of times they turn the lights on and they just come in and start cleaning. I'm like, what the hell?
I know. And I used to I loved growing up whenever there was a movie that had like bloopers over the credits at the end. It was my favorite thing. Like, and I haven't really seen that. I mean, there's always like the stinger at the end for Marvel movies, but I haven't seen a movie that has stuff happening during the credits in a long time. And I love that. I mean, it's like, stick around. I know that a lot of people want to get up and leave at the end, but having a little bit of an incentive for the audience to stay and read the credits is, it's valuable so that everybody gets their name seen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And for me, like, especially at the theater, even home, but at the theater, something about the movie's over and you just kind of sit there and think about what you saw and read the credits. And I think it adds to the experience.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, a movie, it's on Shudder now, Wounded Fawn. they have a whole scene during the credits, and I thought it was kind of tricky how they did that. And
cool.
Pearl too has something going on during the credits.
I haven't seen Pearl yet. I bought it, but I haven't watched it yet. I love X.
Yeah. Well, then I think you like Pearl. You know, that's a thing. A lot of people, they always say like there's no good horror movies. I think there's lots of good horror movies, especially this year. I think it's been a great year for horror films.
I agree. Yeah, this year's been great.
Yeah, independently and theatrically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been so many good movies this year. This has been a really good year for movies.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the lead character. I really like his interaction with the sheriff. I think both of these guys do a really great job. So how about the sheriff? What's his? I have the name here. Sheriff Flanagan. How about casting Sheriff Flanagan?
He was the only person we saw for the role. We got his audition and immediately cast Robert Craighead. He's like a horror legend kind of guy. I mean, he's a character. He's been in everything. I mean, he was in Cujo. He was in
I didn't realize that.
Return of the Living Dead, and he plays the I forget the character's name, but in the new God of War video game and Ragnarok, he is the blue guy who sells you stuff. So the little blue guy that follows Kratos around is played by Robert Craighead.
Oh,
so it's really cool Craig has a friend of mine, so getting to play God of War, and then I hear him as like the character that's walking next to me, like, oh, that's super cool.
I love it. Yeah, I also liked what was the last stuff I liked, but you said about kind of the sweetness. I like when you first see the hot teacher, and then her relationship with the main character. And I love when they show his yearbook, and he's clearly like the same age, and you don't even try to make him look younger. He's like a 30-year-old guy, like in his yearbook, high school yearbook. And I was like, that's pretty great.
Yeah, originally she was supposed to be a little bit older, but Jessica auditioned and she was amazing, and I wasn't gonna not cast. I was like, I would rather, and that was actually something that might be my directing style, I guess, that I realized like over the course of actually directing the movie, is that I would rather use the best take and cast the best actors than I would use the take that cuts well, right? Or cast the actor that makes sense logically, right? I'd rather get the best performance out of an actor and have an actor that's amazing than I would an actor that looks the right role but might not play the character the same way. It's like, to me, the feel of it is so much more important than the technical prowess of a film, right? So like there's edits in the movie where there's one scene where Hunter's hands are like by his side, and then the next they're like this, and then the next they're like on his hips, and then the next they're in his pockets, and it just cuts. If you watch the scene, it just his hands are all over the place as the scene is going on. But each of those takes is a better performance than any other take. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather have like the best performance where your eyes are going to go, right? Like if your eyes are not in the background, who cares, right? Like it technically, no, it's not good editing, right? It's kind of shoddy editing, but I think an audience would care more about having a better take than
I would agree 100%. I know a friend of mine who they don't like Taxi Driver because like the scene in the diner, Robert De Niro's like cigarette or whatever is like different. I'm like, that means absolutely nothing to me. And
it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
They're fun, like little Easter eggs that, unintentional or not, it gives some. I like when a movie feels handmade. You know what I mean? Like that feels like it's not perfect. There's like little wrinkles here and there that, and if you pick them out, I have a real connection to the second Ace Ventura movie. And part of it is that I know where all the wrinkles are, right? Like I can watch the movie and I'm like, oh, there's no chess pieces on the table in this scene, and there's chess pieces in the next shot. So having those wrinkles and picking them out, I think also creates a little bit of a connection with the filmmaker and the audience too, because they get to see a little bit how the sausage was made, which is cool.
Did you do your own editing then?
The editing process on this movie was totally backwards and wild, and not the way it should be done. I did the first pass of editing, but I have only ever edited like 15-minute shorts before. So I've never edited a feature. So I had no sense for timing or pacing or anything like that. So I did the first cut, and it definitely needed a second pass. so we brought it to Gustavo Cooper, another director, and he did a pass, but we hadn't finished we hadn't even shot the final fight scene, and it was cut. It needed another pass. So I brought it to another editor, and by that point we had shot the final fight scene, but hadn't done any of the visual effects on it. And so it was just raw green screen footage, and you couldn't really tell how the fight was going to play out. It was like 300 frames per second, long takes. I mean, it wouldn't have edited. It could never have been the final edit. So after the second editor edited it, I still wasn't totally happy with how it played. And from that point until the VFX was finished was about 4 years. So I just couldn't help myself, and I tinkered, and I would sit and I would tinker and I would tinker and I would tinker. And eventually that's the final movie. So in the end, I basically re-edited it because I had the time to do it, and I wasn't thrilled with it, which is no fault to our other editors. It was that I had too much time on my hands, and I couldn't help play with it, and then I couldn't go back to what they'd already done, and they didn't have the time or the effort to go and tweak what I had changed. And so it's sort of, the movie is sort of this mishmash of 3 different editors. And I do not recommend anybody do it that way. Don't edit with the time, like for any filmmaker, edit with a time frame where there's a beginning and then you have to be done at a certain point, because if you're not done, you are going to tinker. And I'm a perfectionist tinkerer. So I sat there and played with individual frames. And then like at one point I went back, the VFX took so long that I ended up going back and rewatching all of our reels, like every single take from the whole movie, and then swapped out takes. And about 50% of the movie, I was choosing separate takes because it's 4 years later and I'm looking at different things from new lenses. And I'm like, oh, well, that works a lot better because we changed this thing over here. So the characterization of the character here makes more sense now than it did with the previous edit. So we have to use this new take because now it makes sense. So yeah, editing was sort of a nightmare, but the final cut was my final cut. But yeah.
How frustrating was that? Because 4 years seems like a long time to get the movie. Was it frustrating? Like, is this ever gonna actually get released?
Well, it took us 8 years to actually do the whole thing. Wow. We shot the movie in 2015. So it was, or 2014? I don't remember, 2014, 2015, but it took forever. And part of it was that we filmed the A unit, so all the main character stuff, and then the interior of the cockpit of the final fight scene, but had no idea how to do the final fight. And so that was we filmed it on a green screen, and then we ended up doing the drone footage, and that took another 2 years to get that just in the can. And then trying to figure out how to do the visual effects on a budget, I ended up going to Vietnam to do all of the green screen final fight work. But that ended up taking about 3 years in Vietnam to do. And I ended up living in Vietnam for about 9 months to oversee the project. But they were using the project as sort of a training, because we only had, a small budget. They were using it to train their artists, and then their artists would move on to other projects or leave the company. And so then a new artist would come on and not know how to pick up the previous artist's work. So they would start again. And so there's a lot of like starting again in order to get the look consistent throughout the whole project. And ended up not working out in Vietnam. So I took all our hard drives and moved it back to LA, and then had another set of artists basically clean up all the work that was done in Vietnam and make it consistent and make it work. And so that took another 1.5 years. I mean, it took a long time. And then we couldn't really even do a sound mix or music composition until the final fight scene was in the bag, because we didn't even know what the edit was going to look like for the final fight until all the shots were done. Because the way that the edit, I ended up editing it until we were doing the sound mix, basically, because the final fight, even when all the shots were composited, some of it didn't work for timing reasons. So like, and we shot it in 300 frames per second. And so a lot of it had to be speed ramped. And so I was adding all these effects. I had to learn how to use After Effects in order to add these like speed ramps and camera shakes and all sorts of stuff to get the edit right. So yeah, it took a really long time. And I didn't know, I mean, I'm stubborn. So like if I start a project, I'm going to finish it one way or another, but, it was disheartening. I mean, it's the hardest thing I've ever done by 1000x. I mean, it was the amount of time, and our producers didn't know how to do VFX. So most of it was me being like, all right, well, I have to figure out how to do VFX. How do I do VFX? Right. And I don't know. So making it up from scratch. And then like, even now self-distributing, like I knew I wanted a really super high quality Blu-ray, but I'm self-distributing the movie. So how in the world do I make Blu-ray discs and get the license for the Blu-ray disc and like get the artwork done? How do I get the right sleeve? And creating things from scratch is part of what took the project so long, is because at every stage I never really knew I knew what I needed done and I knew how I wanted it to be at the end, but I didn't know how to get there. Yeah. So I had to fail over and over and over and over again trying to get to where I wanted to get to.
So with the self-distribution, how did you come to that conclusion? Because distribution in modern day there's a lot of pitfalls to fall into. You don't. I know from experience in the last year.
It was a very hard decision. I went back and forth on it a lot. We got some offers, nothing close to what I was hoping for. Part of it is, I think, just because the nature of the industry today is different than it was 8 years ago, right? Like when we made the movie, I think our prospects were a lot different than it would be now, right? So the amount of money you get up front for a movie is not a ton today. It just isn't. Unless you're winning Sundance, you're not making six figures. And the idea that a distribution company would pay us up front and then they would pay the marketing expenses, and which is $15,000, like across the board, like every deal we looked at, $15,000 marketing expense. So then, and they would have to make back, and then they would have additional expenses. And some distribution companies would tell us what those additional expenses were, and some of them would not. And the idea that there was a nebulous number attached that could be, whatever it is that they would need to make back before we started seeing any money, I was like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with the idea that, and then, so then I also have a fantastic lawyer. My lawyer, I love my lawyer. And he showed me all of the places that, like, had I not had my lawyer, I never would have seen a dime. And so when we started pushing back on distribution contracts and like, hey, can we have an expense cap? Right? They're giving us $60,000 up front, $15,000 of, now we're at $75,000. Can we have an expense cap so that there's no additional expenses on top? And they come back with a $150,000 expense cap. I'm like, so we have to make $150,000 before we see anything. And then what? Like how that it just didn't make sense to me. I would rather see no money up front at all. And that was something I kept on trying to do with the distribution companies, was like, I want to see nothing. I don't care about an MG. I want to see the movie make as much money as it possibly can over the lifetime of the movie, not up front, right? Like, because up front to me is if you made your movie for $50,000 and you get $50,000 up front, great, like awesome. You're paid back. You're good. But the idea that you would get money up front and then it might be 3, 4, 5 years after your movie's out before you start recouping any more of the cost of the film, like that just didn't sit well with me. And then I had also heard enough horror stories from other filmmakers that I know and talk to about just the operations of distribution companies in the modern age. That I'm like, I worked too damn hard on this project for too long to put it in the hands of somebody else who may care about it and may not. And one of the things I keep hearing is that the upfront conversations with distribution companies are not indicative of the long-term relationship with the distribution company, that they might say all the right things up front and bring you on board and say you're gonna, you're the chosen one. We love you so much. And then 2 months later, you don't hear anything. And that was consistent across the board from every single filmmaker that I talked to. And I'm like, look, if the only thing that these distribution companies are bringing to the table is money up front, which I don't care about, because I would rather have the film make more money in the long term and take more of a percentage of that than like just a chunk of change in the beginning, and a marketing expense. I'm like, I'll find a way to pay for the marketing expense and put the movie on myself. So I end up using Bitmax, which there's like a couple different aggregation companies that'll basically put it on all the platforms for you. Mm-hmm. And Bitmax costs $2,500 to put up front, to put it on iTunes, Amazon, Google Play, Vudu. But we keep 100% of the proceeds. So if somebody pays, $12 for it on iTunes, Apple takes $3 and then we keep the rest. So Bitmax doesn't keep anything in between. So every dollar that's coming in, I'm seeing how many people are watching the movie. I'm getting real-time analytics of like, okay, we sold this many in the US, this many in the UK. And that's another thing is that, so Raven Banner sold the film to like 10 territories around the world. Mm-hmm. Sort of traditional distribution company ways of doing things. And then I sold it everywhere else. So it's out around the world. We didn't do any marketing in the UK, but my hope is that like, this is the type of movie that has long legs. So it might not, it takes the right people to see it in the beginning, and then they tell their friends about it, and then they tell their friends about it. And then, it'll hopefully have a long lifespan.
That's how a lot of the indie movie, even I know Terrifier 2 is doing really good out of the gate, but Terrifier, when it first came out, like I was one of the first podcasts of the people on, because I saw it and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was not that I'm taking credit, but I'm just, it was before it really started to get a buzz behind it. And then, it was like a month or two later, it really started to grow. And then, now it's, this huge movie.
Yeah. Yeah. They are killing it. It's amazing to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say that I know a lot of people don't like those movies. That's totally fine. But I do think it's good for independent filmmakers that something like that could do so well.
Oh, agreed. The inspiration there is huge. I mean, just the fact that they're able to do what they're doing and get the reception that they are is awesome. It's good for everybody that movie's doing.
But like you're saying, though, I think a lot of, especially this level movies, the word of mouth helps. The internet, Velocipaster was another one, I think, that, people liked it and they started talking about it. And then, after time, people, start buying it and watching it.
Yeah, I think that's, in the end of the day, either the movie's going to sit on its own 2 feet, right? It's going to stand on its own 2 feet, not sit on its own 2 feet. It's going to stand on its own 2 feet, or it's not, right? Like, and no amount of push or leverage from a distribution company is going to make or break the movie in the long term, right? In the short term, maybe. Like short term, maybe they're going to get it in all the places that it needs to get to. But in the long term, like either the movie will do well or it won't. And I don't think anything is going to make or break that except for the quality of the film itself. So I would rather gamble on that than give it to a distribution company that may not take care of it the way I would want to take care of it.
And I know from I don't have much experience here, but from my friends, what you're saying about getting it on Tubi and those platforms, a lot of the people, they'll tell you that's what they'll do, but from people I know say it's so easy just to do it yourself, like you just mentioned. In this process, I find it very hard to look at a distribution deal and come up with a good reason why traditional distribution, basically. Like why traditional distribution, the distribution company needs to come to the table with something that makes them worth 30% of all of the money of the movie, right? That's basically what they all take. It's 30% plus, costs and whatever. But whatever they're bringing to the table has to be worth 30%. And if it's not worth 30%, don't do that deal, because the idea that like Film Hub, you can use for free, and they take 20%,
but they put it on all the platforms, right? So you can get all the platforms for free with no cost, right? Or Bitmax, they give you 100%, but they, it's just a $25,000 or so not $25,000, $2,500 cost up front, but then you keep everything. So if you think your movie is going to make more than $2,500, it's right. You're making your money back on Bitmax right away. So if you're going to make a distribution deal, they have to sell themselves to you for a very good reason why they're worth 30%. And if it's $15,000 upfront in marketing expenses, and there's no minimum guarantee at all, which is some of the deals we saw, then what you're saying by making that deal is 30% of all of the proceeds for your film over that period of time is worth the marketing expenses that they're going to put in, $15,000, and whatever pull their social media has. So then you'd have to look at the social media of the distribution companies and say, how valuable is their 20,000 followers? Could you get it to a podcaster with 20,000 followers? Like, could you get on a podcast? So the idea that there's gatekeeping is necessary in the independent film world right now it's just not true. Like, you can get it out there, and it's harder, like significantly. There's a lot of time and energy it takes to actually do that. But I think in the future, distribution companies are going to have to sell themselves worth 30% pretty hard, because there are more people that are doing self-distribution, and it costs a lot less.
And I don't want to say any names because they send me movie stuff, but there are distribution companies that I think actually have it kind of gives the movie a negative vibe right away. Because I won't say any names, but if I get a movie from a certain place, a few of them that I know, I'll be like, oh, it's probably not good. And then it almost has to surprise me. Like, I'd watch it, even though this was from so-and-so, it's actually a lot better than I expected it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And the, I know a couple of those, and what I learned about the way that they operate is basically they give almost no money up front, very little money up front, and it's basically a shotgun approach. So they buy 300, 400 movies, and maybe one of them does well, and they're not banking on all of them doing well at all. They're basically just saying one of these will hit, and it'll recoup the cost for the rest of the money we've spent on the other ones. So if your movie is not, it's another gamble that I'm like, why gamble there if your movie's going to be the one that hits, right? If they buy 300 movies and one of them hits, if your movie's going to be the one that hits, it's going to hit with them or not, right? It's just going to hit. Your movie's just going to do well. So what do they bring to the table besides the name? And some of the times now, I agree, the names, because of that shotgun approach, if you watch 5 of the movies that don't hit and you're like, oh, these aren't very good, the movie that did hit with that name, you might not take a second look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, 100%. And that's why, like, Raven's banner, honestly, like, they might not have 8,000 movies, but and you might not like every movie on there, but there's definitely like a higher standard of movies that they put out.
Agreed. They really curate their movies. They do a very good job curating what they pick up.
Yeah.
They're incredibly consistent in that way. Yeah.
Back to the movie itself, though, the reason I'm wearing the besides I just like Gremlins is the bar scene especially is I was like, oh man, this is very Gremlins-esque, and I assume that had to be on purpose.
Oh yeah. I just stole that scene from Gremlins.
Yeah.
Like, that's my least creative scene is the bar scene, just because I was like, I want to do that, and pointed to the scene. But it was also the hardest scene of the whole movie to film, because we filmed it at like 4 a.m. once the bar had closed, and we basically had to close down the bar and then go through morning. And each of the special effects takes a while to set up and to do, to do it multiple times in order to get the performance right and make sure that the puppets are working, and like, and that whole scene is all special effects. It's all practical effects. And so we probably shot 2 pages, and the scene itself was probably 6 pages. So there's 4 pages of stuff that I wanted in that scene that we didn't get to shoot. So there's like, I had crabs flying on the fan.
Right.
We had crabs playing darts with human heads. Like, there was crabs were controlling the people and they were playing darts with a human head. Like, we had so much extra stuff that I wish we could have gotten for that scene to make it even bigger. Like if there's any scene that I could have gone back and redone to amplify, it would be that scene. I love what we got, but like, oh, there's so much more.
Maybe for a sequel down the road. Who knows?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah, go back to the bar. So you had to film at the bar at night. How about finding a school that would let you film that?
We were really lucky. There were 2 schools in that town. So that town is there's 4 schools, but there's only 2 would have even worked. And we ended up shooting at the middle school. And the principal of the middle school was like, I'll let you shoot here, but I need to be in the movie. And we're like, great. All right, cool. No worries. So she's the bartender. So the bartender is the principal of the local middle school. And we went to look at this other middle school or this other high school first. And the colors were all strange. It was like lots of color, like a rainbow school. And it just didn't play into our theme. And we're like, I mean, we can do some set decoration and like kind of make it work with the tone of the rest of the movie, but like that's a lot of work. And this is like, it's not really what we're looking for. And then we found this other school and all the lockers are blue. Like it's just everything is exactly the color scheme that we could ever possibly want. And the classroom was perfect. And it already had like all the colorful stuff hanging in the classroom, the underwater stuff. Like it was perfect. I mean, there's so many parts of this movie that it seemed like everything was going to fail and like, oh, it's all over. And then the next day, the best thing that could possibly happen happened. Like our lead actor, our original lead actor we filmed a whole day with him. And then he went skateboarding that night and broke his arm. So
not to laugh at his broken arm, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we had to recast him in 24 hours. And we got Dylan to come out and play Philip. And he was like 1,000x better. I'm not going to name the other actor, but he's like 1,000 times better. And it was like, oh, this is night and day. Like, this is amazing. Like this, we thought it was the end of the world because we're like, oh, our lead actor, we don't have a lead actor anymore. And then Dylan comes on and just knocks all our socks off. And then like we lost all of our locations because originally the 2 brothers were supposed to live in suburbia. And this is supposed to take place in like a attached garage in suburbia. And the owners of the house found out the opening scene of the movie was a sex scene. And they're like, you're no longer allowed to film here. You can't, nope, this doesn't work anymore. So we had to pack up and move. And we found the trailers and we found the barn. Originally, it was also supposed to, the giant mechanical shark was supposed to be made out of train parts. And we're going to shoot at this abandoned train lot. And then we found out that there were dangerous chemicals on the train lot and we couldn't get insurance to film there. And we're like, oh shit, like what do we do? So anyway, one of our PAs found the location with the 2 trailers and the big barn, and everything, basically most of the movie takes place there. But that was and all of the cockpit for the mechanical shark was built using pieces of stuff that we found in the barn on location. Like, so the continuity between the stuff that's in the barn and the look of the shark is only because we lost another location like 2 days before we were supposed to film. So it's amazing how many things are like, we thought it was the end of the world and then it ended up being the best thing ever.
Yeah. So 8 years, all these ups and downs getting the movie made. We mentioned, watching it at Fright Fest. So when you were done, did you know, like, I'm going to submit it to festivals? Like, what were your plans?
Yeah. So Raven Banner did the first, Raven Banner is our Canadian sales agent, our Canadian distributor and our world sales agent. And they were handling a lot of the film festival stuff in the beginning. And so they submitted it to Fright Fest. So basically they're just like, well, they wanted to submit it to film festivals for a long time. And we've submitted like works in progress and stuff like that, but the movie just wasn't done. Mm-hmm. So Fright Fest was the first time that we got in somewhere and the movie was done, which was really cool. So that was
the premiere?
That was the premiere. Was
that's cool.
In London, which is awesome. Oh, we got to, we were opening night on the IMAX screen and I'd only ever seen the movie on my little laptop. Right. So I was so nervous. Like, I hope it looks good on a big, and it looked beautiful. Like it was awesome. And right away it was the first, 3 minutes are like either you're on board or you're not. And I wanted to make the beginning of the movie like either this is the type of movie for you and you'll know it right away. And if it's not the type of movie for you, like you don't need to keep watching. The rest is just not for you. Like, great, I'm not going to waste your time. I'd rather right away whether this is for you or not. Right. And so I was really nervous in the first 3 minutes, and then everyone started laughing at the right spot. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll be okay.
Yeah. And Fright Fest in particular for festivals, they show a lot of different kind of movies because they'll show like something that's kind of funny. They'll show like more what I consider festival movies, and then they'll show some and they'll show some just very bizarre things that might not even play anywhere else. So I think that makes for an interesting audience because like you said, this might not be a traditional festival movie for another festival. So going into it, you might not know exactly how people are going to react to it.
Yeah. And I was really lucky with Fright Fest that we had a great time slot, and they did a really great job sort of promoting the tone of the movie too. Like it hit it was also right during COVID, like right.
Oh yeah.
The end-ish of, not the end, but like it was during COVID enough that we were also worried that people weren't going to show up, but people did. It was packed, and for every movie, it was the reception because they had canceled it the year before because of COVID, and this is the first year they've done it since then. Everyone wore their masks, and it was really exciting getting to be back in movie theaters with the people that really missed being in movie theaters. Yeah. Getting to see brand new movies. Like that was such a cool experience, not having gone to movies during COVID, and then getting to go and be part of a community of people that just absolutely love going to movies, and especially horror movies. It was really, really fun. I loved Fright Fest.
Yeah. I agree 100%. That was the main thing. Like, obviously people had it worse than going to movies and stuff. But it was the main thing that I missed was going to movies with, especially the festivals. Like you said, because you're around like-minded people who really enjoy the genre. Yeah,
totally.
So what would you say the benefits of having your film at a festival are?
Oh, all of them. The benefits of having the film at a festival, there's so many. I think getting to meet the audience as a filmmaker is insanely valuable. Like the only people, especially from a selfish point of view too, like from a I love the idea that other people get to enjoy something that I made, because at this point it doesn't feel, if I feel detached from the project, like I've worked on it for 8 years, it feel like it's its own thing. It has no real bearing on me. So there's like, I get to share it with people feeling unattached to it. And then getting to talk to them about it after. What did they like? What they didn't like? That's been really fun. But the people that watched the movie before going to festivals were like my mom, my fiance, like, friends that they like me. They don't necessarily like horror movies. Right. So it's like, oh, it's great. Then I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm glad you liked it, but like they would have liked it if it was the worst in the whole world.
I hope your mom's not going to say, oh man, that sucked.
That was terrible. Right.
Yeah.
No. Right. So getting to share it with the people that I made it for, right? Like the people that are like me, that love horror movies and love film festivals and love indie movies and like love creature features and gore, and like getting to share it with them was insanely valuable. And getting to getting to talk movies, because I don't really have a community of like-minded film geeks like myself in my little bubble, right? And so getting to be in that environment and chat movies with other people, and especially meeting other filmmakers, and like that's got to be the most valuable thing, is going through the process of actually making a movie from script to festival to distribution. There's so many facets of that process that had you not gone through it, you wouldn't know what somebody else has really gone through, right? But getting to meet other filmmakers that have gone through that same process, it's like you're immediately bonded with all these people because you've gone through, the art of war together, right? The war of art.
Mhm.
Like you've built something that they know how difficult it is to build. And so there's camaraderie there, and you can swap not only like horror stories, but like, this worked really well, do this, right? Or I had no idea that I could even do this thing, try that. And so there's because everybody's, there's a lot of similarities between filmmakers, I think, in terms of like how they just get a project done. But then each step is so individual that you can learn so much from somebody that has also gone through the same thing, that like, yeah, getting to talk to other filmmakers is just really cathartic, because it made me feel not so alone in the process.
Yeah. So Crabs, where can you get it now? Obviously, Raven's Banner if you're in Canada, and if in some other countries. And when will the U.S. Physical release be out?
It's out now.
Oh, it is out now. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep. So the Blu-ray is on Amazon now. Amazon just jacked up the price a little bit, so it's a little more expensive than it should be, and I got to figure out why. It might just be because it's Christmas. But it's on iTunes, Google Play, Apple TV, and Vudu, and Amazon Prime. And then the Blu-ray is on Amazon, and there's two DVDs that are on Amazon right now. One of them is the French version, and the other version is the other one's the Australian version. So the US DVD should be coming out in like February, but I wanted to get the Blu-ray out first with all the.
You mentioned so there's multiple commentary.
Oh yeah, so I do a commentary. Jim Ojala and I do a commentary.
Oh, nice.
Chase does one as Radu, and then we have we storyboarded most of the movie, and so I edited the storyboards together as animatics. So there's like full animatics for 10 different scenes or something. There's bloopers. There's about an hour and a half of raw behind the scenes footage of like how we shot the movie. There's pre-production stuff, like building the creatures. Then there's on-set stuff. And then there's the green screen filming the final fight scene stuff. There's deleted scenes, alternate scenes. There's a whole bunch of stuff. There's probably 2+ hours of content on the movie or on the Blu-ray.
Well, it's very exciting because I'm guilty of being. I always tell people get physical, but physical media. But I'm guilty of like, well, it's easier just to watch online, except for when there's a whole bunch of cool extras. Especially, I'm a big fan of commentary tracks, and that's a big seller to me if there's a lot of cool stuff to actually buy the movie.
Chase's commentary as Radu is. I mean, there's a lot of other good reasons to get the Blu-ray, but that's the reason. Like I put a little sticker on the back of the Blu-ray box that is like pointing specifically that Radu has a commentary because it's so funny. I mean, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to, because I had full control over the contents of the Blu-ray in the US. I grew up watching the commentaries and like behind the scenes stuff, and that's kind of how I learned how to direct. A
lot of my friends have said the same thing. Yeah, that
valuable.
Yeah.
And I miss that. I miss having.
I agree 100%.
Like feature packed Blu-rays, because all that behind. I mean, I got a whole shelf of like making of movie books, and it's so cool to get to see how something was made and all the stuff that was left out of the movie. Like getting the full complete picture of a project, I think makes you appreciate the project itself more. So if there's people that like the movie, I really wanted there to be something that like, 16-year-old me that would go out and look for that stuff would be like, oh, this has everything I wanted.
Yeah, that's a big thing I miss because it's used to be everything had a commentary track, but it's really rare now. There's not too many, and especially multiples. To me, that's great.
Yep. Yeah. It was fun recording the commentaries too, because like the one Jim and I did is just a conversation about the special effects. So we just talked about like special effects for the whole runtime of the film, and then mine, I got to go into all the tiny little. I mean, there's so many little tiny things that no one is ever gonna pick up on if you watch the movie. So I wanted to hit on every one of those that I possibly could in my commentary. So I'm like editing my commentary, just trying to squeeze as much information as I possibly can into every second,
Yeah.
just to have like, here's all the little bloopers and all the little things that happened. And then Chase's is just free form commenting as Rod. It's very
the
fun.
technical side of recording your own commentary. Do you have to keep pausing it then so you can get in everything?
Oh yeah. Jim and I didn't do that. Jim and I had just a beginning to end, conversation, free form. But for my commentary, I would record and then stop, and then record and then stop, and then if it took too long, I would try to trim it and specifically say things concisely so that I could get as much information. Because sometimes, like, I've heard commentary tracks and there's like 5-minute breaks.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. I'm like,
sometimes I think, did I actually turn off the commentary or what's happening? Yeah.
Right. I'm like, no, there's infinite amount of information. I could fill up 5 commentary tracks, but nobody wants that, right? So let me try to use every moment I can to get in the things that I would want.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. And so I'm actually going to get a copy of that because I love Crabs, the movie, not Crabs and. But no, it was awesome. Not just because you're here, it's really fun. I posted on my Facebook. I really liked the movie. And,
thank you.
And I saw Frank Farrell really liked it too. The guy who made Spookies back in the 80s. He was a big fan of the movie.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's very exciting. So I'll go out and get it. It'd be a good Christmas present for your weird movie friends.
That's right. Yep.
Well, do you have anything in the works? I know you've been busy with Crabs, but what do you have anything coming out in the near future?
Not in the near future. Yeah, I'm writing a couple different projects. If Crabs takes off, I've got ideas for Crabs 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'd love to just expand and like go really wild. Like I see Crabs as like if I could up the ante of every Crabs movie, kind of in the same way that like the Fast and the Furious is doing their franchise
right.
Space. I'd love to do that. I would love to have Crabs just be this ever expanding, absurdist franchise. So each of the movies goes bigger and crazier and wilder and more out there. But the movie I'm working on a couple different projects. The one is most likely to get made is a really simple horror movie. The premise is basically there's somebody stalking a family, and I wanted to. Crabs has a lot going on. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of special effects. There's a lot of really complicated sort of stuff happening. There's a lot of interpersonal relationship dynamics, and like it's convoluted. Like the movie itself is just a convoluted piece, and I really want to do something that's simple, but I want to execute it as well as I possibly can. Like take all of the complexity down to something really simple and execute it as well as I possibly can. And so, this is basically somebody is stalking a family and they don't know why. And I want it to be the scariest movie I could ever make. Like the intention is to make it as scary as I possibly can, because that's something that with Crabs, I felt like if I failed at anything, it was making it scary. The balance between horror and comedy was supposed to be a little more even, and it's 100% comedy, and it's 95% comedy and 5% horror. So I didn't really, and I learned that pretty quickly we had to lean into the comedy just basically because how the suits worked and how the setting was, and we had to lean into comedy in order to not fail at the horror. So with this project, I want it to be all horror, like very little comedy, but nail what I didn't get to do with Crabs, basically.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to anything you work on.
Stranger Danger currently is the title.
What is it? Sorry?
Stranger Danger.
Stranger Danger. All right.
Title.
Interesting. Yeah. It gives me the creeps. So we'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, I love talking with you. I love Crabs. And
Thank you.
I look forward to anything you work on in the future.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This has been great.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I thought it's been a great interview. Really good time.
Yeah, me too.
Dad was a tad insane. I knew him for years, but he never remembered my name. He'd fall, I'd tell him count to 10. Keep on counting, but he's never getting back up again. You broke the law. We cleaned up your silence, but all you ever do is talk. Son, you're getting 5%. Well, you'll be up for parole, but you're never getting back out again. You're like the inside of a lava lamp, always burning, always burning. You're the god of war. What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for, my love? What are you fighting for, my love? Man, I think I'm in a jam. Well, I had a dream where I didn't know who I am. You're a crook, you're a cop, you're a bad piece of work. You're insane, the flame, you're a dick and a jerk. And I said, why? Cause I'm tired of you. And I know you hate it when we're screaming and there's nothing we can do. It's like the time we went to the puppet show. Always punching, always lunging. You're the god of war. What are you fighting for? What are you fighting for, my love? What are you fighting for, my love? Of times you'd be running with a knife, but you're the god of life. Take my final advice, take my parting advice, my love. Love thy neighbor and yours.